she was helping raise you. I think didn't you live with mom? You lived with mom and dad and helped raise Reggie, Roy, and Rudy. So that's before Joseph and I were born. That's when they were maybe first getting started in music. I don't really know the story. You were living with mom when Joe was born. So that was in Ohio. Columbus, Ohio. Okay. So questions for our aunt, because she knows the story better than I do. I got our two first cousins. All our parents are brothers and sisters here. We got Niecy and Lynn. Joseph's wife is here somewhere. Okay, make sure I got it right. And our tour manager Jack has been with, at least with me and with us, for a long, long time. And I'm just talking so that you can think for a minute. If you have a question, we'll take a moment. Then we're gonna go grab a little bit to eat and talk with our relatives who we haven't seen in a while. And I'm gonna open the floor right now for any questions. Nothing's off limits. Oh yeah, yeah, that's right. The guy that took your picture used to be one of the main photographers for Prince. And one of the album covers that I really like is that Graffiti Bridge album artwork, which I always thought was a photograph. Come to find out, it was a painting. It looks so real, and you had the original painting that you did, right? Yeah, and it's been fun to know Steve Park for many years. He's done a lot of my artwork since, I can't remember which was the first one you did for me, but he's done a lot of the latest artwork. And the brothers will be coming out with some new material, some new and some old material that we're going to be releasing in the next year or so, and Steve is doing the photos and art for that also. So anything is fair game. Start with you, sir.
Hey, I'm Jeff, man. I'm local, but when you all started playing together originally, like when you were younger and everything, do you still play like the first stuff you ever played? Like you remember the first song that actually gelled, and you're like playing for relatives, and you're like, this is what we sound like.
It's a good question. It's a Reggie's going way right now. I think what you're asking is like, do we still, since we've been playing together as a family for so long, do we still play some of those old songs that we used to play way back? Yes. I don't know if anybody wants to expound upon that.
Well, you know, there's a whole thing where when we were very young, we recorded a lot of music. And so coming out later this year, we're going to release some of that music that we recorded way back then, the really good songs. We just recently found there's actually a story, and Vic's going to maybe share some of that story tonight and show, or maybe some of it now. But we got reacquainted with music that we recorded back then. Forgot about it, right? So we're gonna be playing some of that stuff tonight, getting used to it. Later on in this year, we're gonna be releasing that with some new stuff, right? So we'll play some of the new stuff. You know, Joseph's written some stuff for Consuelo, some people that inspired us. So you're gonna hear some of the old and the new mixed together tonight, even. Yes, so we do revisit that stuff. Yeah.
So is that the Memorial Day weekend garage music?
Yeah, all that. A lot of that stuff was created in the garage. I don't know, you all haven't even heard this story. Some of you might be old enough to remember a television show called Don Kirshner's Rock Concert.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. So somewhere in the early part of the pandemic, I got a Facebook message from a guy saying, I used to work for Don Kirshner, and Don Kirshner sent my partner and me to your house in Virginia. And this was all on a Facebook message. He started describing our garage with the egg cartons on the top, on the ceiling. And I was like, this dude was really there. And he said Don Kirshner had heard about these little 5 boys that sang and played and had 5-part harmony, and he sent us to your house. And it's true. And we remembered that. But what he said next, in the typing, he said, I still have the cassette demo tape that your mom gave me. And I'm in my head, I'm like, oh, I gotta be nice to this guy. So one of the first things I said was, give me your number, let's talk. He texted me his number. I called him back. He said, my wife is ill and I need money for her hospital bills. I was hoping to put this cassette online to sell it. And I said, well, how much were you going to ask for it? And he told me. I said, hang on. Let's hang up. I'll call you right back. Don't even leave your phone. Called the brothers. We were like, yes. So basically, we paid him more. We paid him more than he was asking for. Probably at least, it was at least, I don't even remember the number, honestly. It was at least double than what he was asking for. And we got the cassette. So we digitized it, we got it. And then we started thinking, now we remember recording this. So, and we remember recording it in a real studio where we actually used 2-inch tape and all of that. Some of you all right remember that. So I'm thinking, where is the tape? The tape's somewhere. And when our dad died, Roy got a bunch of the stuff and it was like in your storage or something. Cleaned out the house and a lot of the stuff was at Roy's. So I went through there and found the reel. Yeah, I found 2 reels. I didn't know what the second reel was, but I found 2 reels and 2 1-inch, like masters. I sent them to a good friend of mine that I trust in Colorado. He sent them back. And when he sent them back, there was a whole lot more music. There was like 2 whole records and some other. We're like, whoa, we don't remember any of this. I forgot about this. So a lot of you all don't know our brother Rudy. Rudy passed away way too early. That's right. In 2010, he passed away. He's our saxophone player. And he was known for playing 2 saxes at once. You know, so when we were growing up in the 60s and 70s, when there were a lot of horn bands, Earth, Wind and Fire, Chicago, Tower Power, the Memphis Horns, Ohio played. Horns were a part of popular music. Rudy was our horn section. He would have played 2 at a time. Blood, sweat, and tears. So he was our horn section, and sadly we lost Rudy. But all of these recordings have Rudy. So knowing both, yeah. So it was just wow. We got this material. So we learned a few of those songs that we will play tonight. And, you know, some of them, I think, we played a couple of them last night for the first time. So we're just relearning this. So that's a long answer to yes. We do go back. But we also grew up as a cover band. You know, we were playing dances and making people groove. So we might even pull out some of that. Sly Stone, James Brown, Stevie Wonder. Who knows where it'll go tonight? But that's a long answer to say yes.
Cover band, you gotta say Marvin for his birthday today?
What's that?
Is it Marvin Day?
It's Marvin's birthday today.
Marvin's birthday today?
Larry!
That's a good piece of information right there.
Thank you. We call Joseph the human jukebox, so who knows where it's going to go with Joseph? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What else? What else? Yes?
Well, I want to first ask, like, how old were you when you, on those tapes? How old were you? That's not what I asked you.
Okay, on the recordings. So let's say that the Calm Before the Storm one. Which one was first? Let's put that up. Oh, repeat the question. How old were we on these recordings that we just found?
So the Calm Before the Storm right there.
Was that the first one?
Well, that was your college. Yeah, that was your first year of local state, second year of college.
And that was the earliest one?
So that, if I remember correctly, that would put me in the next second year of college. That puts me in the 9th grade. Yeah.
Oh my God! Wow. So like 14.
So I'm 3 years older than Victor. So Reggie was second year of college when we did one of them. And I think the second year of college, I was in the 9th grade, which means Victor was in the 6th grade. And I mean, Roy's first year of college, and Rudy was, I guess, a senior in high school. Yeah, Rudy was a senior in high school. So yeah, but he was ready, you know, winning awards, blowing 2 saxes at once. So and we had, wasn't the other tape before that, after? Anyway, it was somewhere around in there. We were still teenagers. We were still teenagers and preteens.
We're still out teenagers.
But we've been playing a long time. We opened for War when Victor was 5 years old. I was 8. Older 3 brothers were 11, 12, 13. That was in 1970. Curtis Mayfield a couple of years after that. So we've been playing a long time. Long time.
First, you guys probably, I know you'll remember it when I say it, but our first studio, Brant Studios, remember that? Remember Brant? We made a 45. We did a song that maybe Roy, did you write that one song that Mom wrote the lyrics to the other one?
He sang it.
Roy sang it. But the first recording was, I barely remember, but I was
Was it before 72? Because we were still in California.
definitely before or 72. So we were in California, 70 or 71, so we were very young. If it was 70, I would have been starting kindergarten. Reggie would have, when do you start kindergarten? 5? Which would have made, if I was, let's say I was 5 or 6.
Kindergarten, he was 8th grade.
Huh?
He's 8th
That means
grade.
Reggie's in the 8th grade. So if you think about Reggie taught me when I was very young, my earliest memory of kind of playing with the brothers, and it's mainly I remember it because of the films. I was 2 or so, 3, 2. And Reggie was teaching me to play bass. Reggie was also teaching Joseph. If I was 2, Joseph was 5. But here's the thing, I was 2, Reggie was only 10. 10 years old. So Reggie taught me to play bass, at the same time teaching Joseph to play keys, and some kind of way teaching himself to play guitar.
Some kind of way.
So that within a few short years, I'm sure Arnold Douglas had something to do with it. But within a few short years, we're doing some major shows.
Only 3 years later.
Opening for Curtis Mayfield, opening for War, bands like The Temptations. So that's why we still call Reggie the teacher. He can teach anybody. But in that first recording we did, the one thing I remember about it, we made a 45. But in the studio, for whatever reason, the studio could not get it to where you could hear the bass in headphones. I can almost remember those yellow headphones the way but for whatever reason, I remember, the way I remember, they tried, just couldn't get the bass. No bass in the headphones. I'm like, well, let's just do it anyway. Well, I'm sure you all just said that. I was young. But I remember recording these first 2 songs, not hearing myself. Just playing. And I'm like, wow, man.
I forgot about that. The Victor didn't even hear himself when he's playing his parts.
So at some point we'll have to put that out too, because we still have that 40. I still have that. I just wanted, you got it? Good. So yeah, that's a good question. It brings back some memories there. Yeah. The Wu-Tang came and Restriction was the ballad, right? All right, couple more. Anything else? Yes.
What is the most glamorous to non-glamorous gig you've ever played next to?
The most glamorous to non-glamorous?
You guys played and opened for someone crazy, and then the next day you were playing at a bowling alley.
Oh, like you mean back-to-back type of thing?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, back to back or just period?
Yeah, because you know, sometimes bands will be on big shows, and then the next day they're playing the opposite gig.
That happens sometimes. The thing about the classiness of a gig is you have to bring the class, right?
Yeah.
It's like one thing you can think about, like we went to New York and we got signed to Astor Records, and we got signed at the same time they signed Whitney, same producer, same label.
There are actually on Whitney Houston's.
On Whitney's debut record, yeah, I sang with Whitney on Thinking About You, and Roy played drums on You Give Good Love. I watched her singing. In fact, nobody was in the studio except me, the producer, and Whitney. And that was really glamorous, and Roy and I went on tour with the Sheep, and we opened with some of everybody, and we were on top, and then the record company didn't get behind the record, and we came back and went back to Busch Gardens. Yeah, from New York we went back to the country show, but we didn't think about it like that. We went back to Wooten Brothers and we killed the country show. We didn't solve it. Was just another chance to play. And if there's a moral to the story with that question, is the gig is not classless, and how do I put it that way? The gig is not, you provide the class for the gig. Some of the greatest music has been played in some of the most meager circumstances. So I don't even know any gigs that I think about in terms of this is a gig that I don't deserve to be there. If I'm there, then I plan on making it a good spot.
Yeah, it's like my brother Joseph says, wherever you are, it's like music to the rescue.
Yeah.
You're gonna make something out of it, right? So anyway, when we did Busch Gardens, I remember I was doing, and it was an opportunity for me to like really practice a lot of these inside roles inside of oom-pop music. I could hide it in the German show, right? And when I got to the German show, man, there was a tuba player leading the band. This dude was leading an oom-pop band like it was an orchestra. Like I couldn't believe how much music this guy was getting out of an oom-pop band. That guy is at Busch Gardens. We're on the record. If you can find one of the earliest German records, I'm on the record. Tom Wilkins is playing the tuba, one of my favorite tuba players. But he's a conductor now. That's what he wanted to do. He wanted to be a conductor, right? He did his recitals, you know, conducted to the record and stuff. So he just recently conducted Victor doing his bass concerto with the Boston Symphony, right? Right? That was that guy in the Wooten band, man. He had that band sounding like an orchestra, right? So I used to do all these crazy roles and stuff. And Carter Beauford, right? My friend Carter Beauford, who plays with Dave Matthews, he said, man, I used to come all the time to listen to whoever that was playing the drums in that Wooten band. And he said he could go and get us a beer, and he could just listen. So Carter was really catching that. And you could hear the effect of how he's doing all those cool roles inside ants marching and all of that. You know what I mean? Because we've been friends for a long time, but you know, you just never know how you're influencing people, how people are listening to the situation. So music to the rescue. You were going to say something.
I was also going back to making the gig work something. At Busch Gardens, I'm in red crushed velvet vest and some crushed velvet
Walk
knickers.
us through it.
In the Italian show. It's at Busch Gardens. Yeah.
What was your go-to song? Like, yeah.
Well, at Busch Gardens, you play Busch Gardens music, right? But,
What show were you in?
I was in the country show after you guys left.
yeah.
You can't really see this, but he just pulled up a picture of four of us. This is when we all did the country show together.
You were killing that country show. Oh, there it goes. Good look up there showing it over there. So yeah, we had been to New York, and New York didn't work out, and we came back and we killed it. But the point that I'm making is that, like at Busch Gardens, I'm playing the Italian show, and on the breaks, I had written a song for each person in the cast. They'd walk in and I'd start singing a song with them, and everyone's like, well, you didn't write me a song, and I wound up writing about 40 different songs for 40 different people. And then the next year, because I was playing in a mini orchestra, I was like, I'm gonna write these songs out so the whole orchestra can play them as tribute to all of these people. And just add, he did a song for everyone in the band and the cast. Am I correct about that? yeah.
Yeah, he did a song for everyone that had a name, and he did a song about them that actually hit home. So Stevie inspired Joseph to be able to do that. Can you tell the story how you got inspired to do that?
Yeah. Well, I saw Stevie on, no, it was before over here with Barbara Walters. And Barbara Walters was talking, she said, write a song about me. And Stevie started playing this instant, brilliant Barbara Walterian music off the top of his head with lyrics and beautiful chords. And I was going to Hilton, so I think I was in the 6th grade. And I was like, I want to do that. I want to be able to do that right there. I just recognized it. So at Busch Gardens, just playing at first, I wrote a song for the violinist that strolled through the door, and somebody said, you didn't write me a song, and I wound up writing a song for everybody. In the following year,
Can you give an example of that song?
No.
Just so they can.
but she walked in, and said, her name was a violinist. I mean, she was a violinist, and she was a strolling violinist, so I said, Cindy, the sun and the moon go your name. And I was sort of playing with that Italian aria thing and the fake opera voice that the sun says sea, the wind says high, the ground says in, the moon says divide, Cindy, etc., etc. The sun and the moon call your name, Cindy, the sun and the moon call your name. But the point that I'm making, the point to the long story, is that I took a situation that could have been humiliating, that I didn't let be humiliating, and I wound up teaching myself to be an arranger with this mini orchestra that I was playing in, and crushed velvet vest, and crushed velvet knickers, and white socks, and a red sash. Right? That could be humiliating if you let it be, but I never thought about it that way. It was just an opportunity. I'm with all these other musicians, and I get a chance to make use of it. So now I'm an arranger because I got sent back to Busch Gardens.
Yeah. That's a lot of work. Joe told me that I did he was going to do it. I just went, brother, that's a whole lot of work, man. Woo. But anyway, what I was gonna say too, coming from New York, it's like when we were in the studio doing our record, they treated us like we were Milli Vanilli or something. Like, at the end of the day, we're barely recording on the record. And on our own record, I don't know, Vic's playing maybe one song, right? So we're upset when we're leaving New York. We're just upset about that. You don't take a group that can play like we can play, and we don't get to play on our record, right? And Vic's not even on the record. So many years later, now people, when they hear about it, they're upset the way we were upset. You're gonna take this guy right here and not let him play bass? That's not something you want to write home about right there. You know what I mean, you don't want that on your resume. So, but the moral of the story was, Victor didn't stop. See what I'm saying? Oh, you're not gonna, it's like Michael Jordan getting cut. He didn't stop, right? He kept on developing and bringing something to the game until the whole world understands how to play the bass with some of his ideas, what he had to give. See what I'm saying? That's the moral of the story. Don't give up.
Yeah.
And I hope that this can help change your even whole attitude, and no disrespect that you don't even feel the need to ask the question anymore. Because playing music, regardless of where you are, as Joseph said, you bring it. You play shows?
I have, and I booked the shows.
Check it out. Okay, so when is the last show you're going to play or book? When is it going to be?
I booked the show here.
When is the last one going to be?
Never know.
That's the real answer.
Never.
You don't know when the last one's going to be.
Jam with my friends.
How do you know you're going to jam with your friend 2 weeks from now? How do you know you're going to meet him again?
Because he's got to have a kid.
How do you know you're going to make it out of this room today? The real answer is you don't know. So what are you waiting for? You're waiting for the real one, the special one? So the last gig we did with Rudy was in a dingy place, beer on the floor, club, pretty popular in Nashville, but not the best place. It's not the Ryman or there was a place in Nashville called the Exit Inn. Right? So I didn't know that was going to be the last gig with Rudy. So imagine us being on stage saying, well, this ain't the real gig. Let's just get through this week. We got a gig next week that's really, and then all of a sudden we don't get to play with Rudy again. Imagine that. If you get to do anything, you put both feet in it. Regardless of where it is, there are no important gigs unless important gigs. The only gig you have is the one you're doing. Everything we've done, Joseph's been with Steve Miller for over 30 years. We played with everybody at wherever, Carnegie Hall, just name it. But those don't exist. The only one that exists is this one. All right. So this is the most important gig we've ever done. Thank you, but we know that. We're saying this for you. I appreciate you applauding me, but I want to applaud you now for getting that. Because it's true. I'm not trying to be cool. I'm not trying to be clever. Say it again.
It's what it is.
It's what it is, just what it is. Right. In other words, I mean, you know, our cousins, our aunt came down here. We're going to hug today. We're going to kiss. We're going to love each other right now. We may not get tomorrow. I mean, that's why us brothers want to meet you before the show. I mean, we could just sign you and say, get out of here, move next. No. We say, hey, let's answer some questions. We understand the value of this moment. And we're lucky because we had, aunts and parents that say that. I see my aunt raising her hand right now. So, yeah, what you got, Aunt Devin?
And it's not what it could be, what it should be, or what it will be. It's what it is.
That's powerful. I hope you understand that. It's not it should be, it's not what it could be, it's what it is.
All you can do.
All you can do. Yep, it's what it is. And I like what Joseph said, you bring the class.
That's right.
Bring the class. Cool. Maybe one more, then we'll let you go.
And I was just going to say, when I played the German show, I was just so surprised that Tom Wilkins could get that much music out of a boombox. It felt like we were doing a classical concert, so when he left, I kept that going. And so it's like, we're looking at this, we're looking at the dynamics, we're looking at all the articulation, and we really like squeezing this music out of the situation. And so you use those situations that seems like they might not be important to see how much music can I get in these seconds right here, you know? And then it becomes fun, the time goes by fast.
The one thing about the German band is that you couldn't even see the band during the show.
Right.
The band came out, got on the stage, and the stage lifted up, and they were out of view, and then everyone was watching the dancers. But they still put that much attention into the music, even though no one could even see it. One more question?
I have one.
Yeah.
Did you write this book specifically for me?
Did I write that book specifically for you?
Yes.
Yes,
I know you did.
most definitely.
Thank
But you and me is a big word.
I've got one.
Okay, we'll come right to you in a minute. Yes.
I'm not sure if this has been asked yet, but aside from each other, who's your favorite musician? Everyone.
Besides each other, who's the most favorite musician?
Favorites I ever played with? All of them. Being honest, I like them all. Yeah, there's no favorites. I mean, that's like saying, what's my favorite audience? This. You know, you just have to bring it. You know, when I ask like, what's our top gig and our lowest gig? But in real life, you have to play every gig like there's 10,000 people. Right? It doesn't matter if there's anybody in the room, you still play it the same way. Right? And the other thing is like, the audience, they're paying money to see you play, to entertain. So they can't be a bad audience. Like, because they already know they're a bad audience. That's why they're paying money to see you play. So if you can't entertain them, it's the entertainer's fault. You're not doing your job. So every gig is good. It doesn't matter if there's one or two. So everything is good. You play every gig like there's 10,000 people or 10 million people. Okay? So, and I like all the musicians. Like I teach all the time. So I teach beginners. And to me, they're already great. I just got to find out what that greatness is. But yeah, so we have to learn how to put more love into the thing. More love.
More love. What's the little girl that just played with you?
I get the question too, and I get the other question about the venue, but we really look at it is that this is the only person I'm playing with right now. So why wouldn't I treat that person as the best? For me, it's sort of like being able to talk to a child. You wouldn't say, oh, you're not old enough. Yeah, you don't know. No, you're so good that you can communicate with the child. Now, to get a little, to kind of give you an answer, there are people that sometimes you're, whoa, I got to play with Chick Corea. Wow, I get to sit down and talk to Herbie Hancock and Wayne Shorter. That is special. That is special. But to me, as I think Joseph said it the best, you bring it to me. So when I'm playing with maybe a person that doesn't have as much musical experience, maybe hasn't played in front of people, or maybe they don't know what to do. You recognize that. Doesn't mean they're any worse, because I'm not good enough to speak with their voice. That means they're the best at what they do. As Bela Fleck told me, if you play your own game, no one can ever beat you. And so everyone has their thing. But for me, when I recognize that the person may not have what the situations call for, now it's on me. It's on me to make sure the audience doesn't know that they don't have it. That's my job now, is to cover that up and say, well, I want to be that good that I can make the show happen, you know. And it's not, instead of the with, say it again, Joe.
Even with the beginning.
Even with the beginning, at that point, that's how good I want to be. And sometimes we may have to have a musical talk after the show. To say, hey, you know, let's work on this. You should have known this. Let's work on, whatever. But the goal is to make it happen. We're a team when we're on the stage. Even if we hate each other, we figure it out after the show. So there are some times where it works better than others. But the only one you have is, like Aunt said, is what it is. If you're there, you got to treat that person as your favorite.
Sometimes, you know, what's fun too, it can be your favorite thing when you make something out of something that wasn't perfect. Because I remember Paul Brady, great singer-songwriter, he brought me in from Ireland. He brought me and Vic back up. to come do his whole record because he just liked the way we made his thing feel. And everybody was saying he was going to be hard to work with. He doesn't know what he's looking for. But when we got there, he found he just wanted to do his stuff different and open. And you needed to be able to know how to play jazz to get what he was going for. We weren't playing jazz, but you just needed to know how to play jazz to get it. But when we got there, he had this one guitar part that he sang and played guitar at the same time. And he loved it. It just wasn't on the click. When you tried to put a click to it, it wasn't perfect. And I was like, brother, don't even worry about that, right? I'm just going to get with you. And so I love being able to listen to that record, and you don't even know it was anything. I always say, man, perfection is overrated, man. So the fact that I just said, I can get with you, and he was just so glad to be able to keep that part. So these are like triumphs, you know what I mean? Like we overcame something, like we made it where you don't even know it's not on the clip, right? And then there was another time where we were jamming, and we were in New York, and we were at an Apple Music store. And Wynton Marsalis came to sit in. I couldn't believe Wynton even came to sit in with us, man. I got electric drums, you know, bass, electric guitar, electric bass, and Wynton Marsalis comes on stage, man. And what was cool was, like, we did this jazz thing, and when he played, it's like he was coming from another, like, you couldn't just play the same way. You had to kind of adjust the thing that he was feeling, but it was strong. It was invisible. But it was like, wow, you actually learned something from another guy just coming with a whole different, he's just coming from a different source, you know, he's coming from a different set of swing. And getting with that was fun, you know what I mean, to feel that. It was just, I just remember, wow, this guy, you know, he's just coming from a different angle, you know? And it was cool, it was fun. So sometimes it's like, it's not just your favorite prime time thing, it's just something that's gonna make you like, you know, pay attention to the moment right now. Right now, what is right now asking for? Yes. You. You know it better than me.
Well, I think I was about 5 years old, and my Aunt Odell was right back there. We were in Columbus, Ohio, and she took us with my mom. I think it was actually Aunt Odell's right there to go see James Brown. Right? So this is when James Brown was really strong. We're talking 1960.
Prime time.
61, she knows. And there's only 3 of us alive. Victor wasn't alive then. But we're in the audience. James Brown, he's on fire back in these days, right? Cold sweat. But we go and Rudy, with my brother Rudy, would dance in the audience like crazy. Like my eyes were rolling up and my head up. Right? But James Brown he looked at us. And he saw these little kids and we were in the audience. He pointed out, and he got his valet to come out there and get us. And right there, I felt funny because he was this great guy. But would think that much of us. I really got shy and shied out, honestly. But he pulled us on stage, let us dance on stage with him. And he let us dance as long as we wanted to. He just kept saying, dance. And I always remember that today, like, man, Jay, he was the king of soul way back then. King Records, his face on. And he would just think that much. And that 3 little kids there. So I still have that same philosophy now. There's no bad on it. It's all that.
At the same time, I think about parents and aunts. You know, a lot of parents would be, sit down, sit down. And they're like, in my head, I wasn't there quickly. It's dance music, you're supposed to dance. You know, and James Brown recognized that. That's very, very, very cool. Very, very cool. One more question, and then I know there were a few people who hit traffic and didn't get some photos with us. Great specimens. So, no, but we'll after this is over, we'll come down and make sure you get your picture. We want a picture with you too. Yeah, question? Yes.
So for the fans, right, music is that energy that inspires and recharges us. What do you guys do between concerts or when you're not on the road, or what's like? I know Joseph, you basically coach a football team in Tennessee Titans.
So what do we do when we're not playing at the farm? Well, I'll go first and see what everybody else has to say. For me, if you think about what is music about? What do we sing about? What do we write about? We don't write songs about the one chord going to the fourth chord, and then you walk up to the horrible song. Most music is about life. And my thought is if you don't have a life, you know, your music may be a little bit more shallow than it could be. So the real answer, I think we all really just live life. You know, I love to get outdoors in the woods. I've got 4 kids, so I'm going to their sports and their concerts, their plays. You know, being a dad, I get to go home and get my dog. You know, I think what we all have our own hobbies. You know. Yeah,
I read a good deal, try to stay healthy, exercise, you know, regular stuff. Just live life, I try to use everything to get better, that's what I do.
I'm always working on drums in a different way. I'm building a new drum guitar. You know, people see me play the drum guitar with the Pleptones, so I'm working on a brand new instrument. And it has a lot of new techniques that I'm working on. And then I'm always reading too. My mom always said I was a curious child. So I like to read just give me the craziest stuff, but that's going somewhere. And I'm working with, like Max is one of the students that I've been working with for a year. There's about 11 people who just Zooming with me once a week, through the year. We're just going deep into each person's direction on the instrument. And one of the people I'm going through, we're going through this, we go through different books, like Holographic Blood by, what's his name, Beagle or something. He's talking about the blood, being holographic images in the blood. And right now we're going through a book, it's a book called My Life by Victor Grabenikov, who studies bug wings, geometry on the bug wings. Man, this is straight superhero type stuff right here. They talk about, you know, a bumblebee is this big and its wings are that big. It shouldn't even be able to fly. But look how it can fly, right? A dragonfly, all of those designs is really like levitation and gravitational principles going on with cabinet structure effects. You know, like the way you place shapes creates levitation effects. So when you see a butterfly, the butterfly's not just flying, you're looking at a levitation act going on. And so it makes you look at reality totally different. And Mother Nature is just something, it just blows your mind open. To me, it makes your music go open when you can see this. It's like, wow, I can't look at a bumblebee the same way anymore. You look at a fly, it's got these goggles on it like a military helicopter. It's like, what is that dude seeing, man? You know what I mean? And so to me, it just helps your art to really expand. And for me, a lot of times, Victor's going to have a lot of music camps, right? Wooten Woods, you know, and this year we're going to be live again. So there's a spirit of music and nature. There's a jam camp coming up because a lot of times people are in their rooms practicing, learning all this crazy stuff Vic's doing, but don't know how to play the bass. They don't know how to do it with people. So we have a jam camp just so we can get with people and see how we talk to each other. That's what the jam camp is for, right? And so in doing this, you know, we just get a chance to kind of fellowship with music and see how nature relates to all that. And nature just is always showing us the way. So for me, that's what I'm doing. I was just always expanding my mind, and I like to leave people with the thought that what you're doing with music and your art and your personal voice a lot of times carries more weight than what we're looking at on the news. It seems like what the president is saying is the biggest thing that's going on. But I always ask the kids at the end of the day, I ask them, how many people of you have heard of Mozart? Right? It doesn't matter how young the crowd is. All the kids raise their hand. Yeah, I heard of Mozart. I said, now how many people can tell me who the king or who the president was during Mozart's time? Nobody raises their hand. I said, now that's telling you something. See, he's doing his music, and look how important, how memorable, and how, you know, it's celebrated his birthday every year. Like right now, there's an orchestra somewhere playing his music, right? See how relevant it is. I said, that's what you're working on when you work on your art, right? You actually bring in something, and that has weight when you weigh it on the scales of life and what's going on. So that's the importance of you finding your voice. So there you go.
Cool. All right. We hope you enjoyed the show.
Yes.
Anything? You had a question?
It's a yes or no question.
Oh, yes or no
There
question?
is a song called Bass Tribute where like you call names
A
of
song
like,
called Bass Tribute, where we name a whole lot of bass players.
right, and then you play like them. So my
And we
question,
play
I
like
always
them,
wondered
so.
whether it was you who played there or was like some sort of collaboration with these basses.
There were just a few of us that imitated the bass players. I did all of Stanley Clark's parts. I also did all of Jocko's parts. Other people, Steve Bailey did, Steve Bailey did some. What's the guy that used to go to the Warwick bass camp? Black guy. T.M. Stevens did Bootsy. So we spread it around, but I did most of it. Because I recorded the basics of the song at my house, and then I took it around to get all the other people. I wanted to tribute bass players, because a lot of people don't get a tribute to the dead.
So there's a
And so, it's a record that's on, it's a song that's on one of my records. I can't remember what record it's on, but the song is called The Bass Tribute. You can probably go online and look up Victor Wooten, The Bass Tribute, or it might even just be Bass Tribute. But I wanted to honor bass players. Because, you know, we're all usually in the back, and there's so many that influenced me, and they'll never get honored. And so, what I did is I took my generation of bass players, like Wooten Brothers, Gary Granger, who lives up here, Bill Dickens, different people like that, Steve Bailey. We sang the song. Rhonda Smith, your favorite place. We sang the song, and we sang it to our heroes. And every vocalist that sang, I had them name a good 10 to 20 of their favorite bass players. So when you hear that record, there was only a few that we could get in the song. But at the end of the whole album, the song fades back in, and you'll just hear a list of 100 bass players. And I will say this.
Even in the song itself, you said at some point, like, names that we did not forget about.
Yeah, you can't name everyone, but we said we love you, we didn't forget about you. And I will say this, because this really made me happy. There's a band that some of us grew up with called the Gap Band.
Oh, yeah.
The Wilson Brothers. The younger brother was Robert Wilson, a bass player. I got a chance to meet him in LA. Yeah, beautiful song called Shake or something like that. Yeah. Oh, we actually go into that song for a split second. That song was so impactful. But I met Robert Wilson, and Robert Wilson came up to me and hugged me. I got a picture of the hug on my wall. He thanked me. He said, nobody talks about me. And he talked about how that song just made him so happy because we mentioned his name, and he died not long after that. So it's like, you know, we say nice things after you're gone. And I wanted that song to say nice things. Let people hear nice things about you before. So thank you for recognizing that. Hey, thanks to Reggie, Joseph, Victor, and Joy. And you know that Rudy's around too. Rudy's here. We got our honorables, cousin DC and Lynn. Thank you all for being here. Stephanie.
Thank you guys for being here.
You know, we hope you enjoy the show. And we want to thank our sound guy, Jack. Jack, raise your hand for me. Jack. And Jonathan, our crew guy. He's one of our other brothers. Steve Park, photographer, the crew here. Thank you all, and we can't do it without you. Thanks a lot.